MLBBro.com is covering MLB's postseason.
17-year on-field MLB bro and MLB bro for life. Ellis Burks joins us right now as we get set for the pushback edition of the World Series preview here. And Ellis, we've got Dusty Baker and the Houston Astros in what may be looked upon as somewhat of an improbable journey to get to the World Series. And then you look at the Atlanta Braves, who are probably trumping the unbelievable season that the Astros had by getting there with their best player being on the shelf in Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yes.
Who do you think took the toughest route to get here?
Well, by far, I believe if you're just talking about this year alone, it has to be the Atlanta Braves, simply because when you lose a superstar like Ronald Acuna Jr., you know, that gives the team a serious blow. And they had to, you know, readjust, get things right throughout the season. They did some mid-season acquisitions, you know, getting Solar. They got Jock Peterson, and a couple other guys they got. It was really key for them to do that. And, you know, when you can bounce back from an injury like that, have your star on the shelf, of course, and then to come back and have the season that they had in the second half, you have to give it to them.
All right, let's talk about the Astros, who were left for dead in games 2 and 3, certainly, or 3 and 4 of the American League Championship Series. I mean, they were literally bludgeoned by an offensive assault by the Red Sox, and then suddenly their pitching staff shut things down. What was the most impressive thing to you about what the Astros did in order to win the American League pennant?
Well, their bullpen really came up and just made their presence known. Anytime you have a pitcher like McCullers, who's, you know, been the star of that team the whole season, of course, he's out for the season. Then, you know, your starting pitchers go 3 innings or 4 innings a day before. You have to really count on your bullpen, and their bullpen stepped it up in game 4 and 5. And I tell you what, when they can do that at Fenway Park, that's a tough assignment in itself. They shut the Red Sox down, who, you know, has a tremendous offensive game. That organization every year can produce top hitters, which they did this year. No one expected the Red Sox to be where they were, but somehow they came through. And of course, you know, the Astros shut them down, and they did a tremendous job as well.
How much of an impact do you think that Ron Washington, an MLB bro in his own right, is having on the Braves from that third base coaching spot? I mean, with all due respect to Dave Roberts, we're talking about a brother who was 1 strike away from becoming the second African-American manager to win the World Series. And you know how it is when baseball gods frown upon you. It's a different kind of animal. But to look at the way that team just held it together, can you sense his thumbprint on that team?
Well, you know, Ron, he had that team, the Texas Rangers, in the World Series back-to-back years. I mean, you lose to San Francisco Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals at that time. Hey, I mean, you're doing a tremendous job. Like you said, he came 1 strike, 1 out away from winning the World Series. And that had to be heartbreaking for him. But, you know, he bounced back. He ended up leaving Texas, got this job here in Atlanta, and hadn't looked back. The players love this guy. I mean, he helps those infielders each and every day, going through the instructions, and he's just a joy to be around. I know him personally, so I know for sure he's a joy to be around. Great guy.
Because I'm looking at Brian Snitker, with all due respect, Bobby Cox protege. You can't take anything away from a guy that wins 13 straight division championships. But Snitker is a Bobby Cox guy, and we know that the Braves were notorious even during the days of Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz of not being able to get over the hump. So what do you think Ron Washington's impact will be in terms of helping the Braves get over that hump? Because they haven't been back in 18 years.
Yeah, well, you know what? That entire coaching staff, you're looking at another guy, Eric Young, over at first base, Walt Weiss as a bench coach. That entire staff has done a tremendous job with these players. I mean, if you look at the Braves, they only won 88 games, and they're the first team in the World Series with 88 wins, in a long time. I believe Minnesota Twins had 87, 88 back in the late 80s. But for the most part, this Braves team, you're talking about some fighters. So I would never write off those guys. But to have that leadership from that coaching staff led by Ron Washington and, Eric Young, Walt Weiss, and the manager Snicker, those guys, they've done a tremendous job for the whole organization.
Ellis Burks, our guest from the, MLB Bro fam, as we continue here on the pushback. All right, Ellis, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this series right now. As you break it down, who do you think has the offensive advantage?
Well, I mean, I think they're pretty even as far as if you go first base. I'd have to give the edge to the Braves with Freddie Freeman. You go second base, you have Altuve and you have Albies. Very close. Both of those guys are very close. That's a wash. That's a even right there. They're very even. Okay. You go to shortstop. I'd have to give the edge to the Astros with Correa. Third base, you have Riley for the Astros, and what's the third baseman's name? I can't think of his name, but I'm gonna have to give it to Riley. I mean, he had a tremendous MVP type season this year. Pitching staff, I'm gonna have to give it to the Atlanta Braves with that young pitching staff. All of their starters are healthy. The bullpen came and shut down the Braves shut down the Dodgers throughout the NLCS. So you got to give the edge to the Braves as far as the pitching. But overall, I'm thinking Astros in 7. It's going to go 7.
Wow. Now, my thing is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you played in both leagues.
Mm-hmm.
National League, Pitchers League, American League, Offensive League.
Correct.
If you can shut down an American League pitching or offensive attack the way the Astros did, away from the bullpen but the starters, they just look like they came together at the right time. You ever seen a hot pitching staff? Do the Astros look like that pitching staff is hot to you right now?
Well, the starting pitcher that's going tomorrow, Framber Valdez, he is nasty. I mean, you're talking about a left-handed pitcher that has control, but his off-speed pitches, let me tell you, that curveball is his best pitch. He has the best secondary stuff in the game. Anytime you can keep a team off balance with just 2 pitches, a fastball and a curveball, and an occasional changeup, you're doing a heck of a job. And he can do that. This guy, that changeup, it just has, look like it stops, man. It's unbelievable. But he has to be on tomorrow. He has to throw strikes early, establish that strike zone, and pitch around the corners each and every time. And they will be successful because the Braves are a free swinging team. They like to hunt the fastball. But if this guy can establish that off-speed stuff, he's going to be successful tomorrow.
And in our MLB Bro pool, I've got Luis Garcia as the MVP. He just looked, when you go 5 2/3 no hits ball in a elimination game, I got to bow down because A, you don't see it often, and B, when it happens at this moment in the season, traditionally the momentum carries you through the World Series round. What do you make of his prospects for doing big things and perhaps breaking out as the next great pitching star on this platform?
Well, he did a tremendous job, in the championship series. He shut him down, especially at home. Had some trouble the first time that he pitched. He went 5, I believe, but then he gave up 3 or 4 runs. But that last outing, he shut the door. He really solidified that whole rotation. And I think that's what's going to have to be done as far as their rotation is concerned. He's going to have to show up. He's probably going to pitch game 2. But if they can jump out to that first game, with him coming in that second game, you have to think they look pretty good.
And before I let you go, it was a great piece on the Associated Press about Dusty Baker still being fueled by the statement that his late father gave. He said after the Giants, that is, lost the World Series to the Angels, boy, it's going to be tough for you to get back to here. This is the one that may have gotten away. And Dusty admitted on the record that still drives him. How much does that drive him, the memory of his dad?
Well, Dusty, each time he has a conversation or an interview, he always mentioned his father. I mean, he had much respect, much love for his dad. And, there's so many words, he wouldn't be the person he is or where he is without his father's guidance. So, yeah, of course, he respects that. He listens to his dad and all the love in the world, man. So, hey, you got to do that. You got to come back. He's got to get back. I mean, he's already back there now. He has to get a win to solidify an unbelievable career. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt, to me anyway. But to have this world championship under his belt, that would be a plus.
That's my man, MLB Bro for life. He is Ellis Burks. Ellis, thanks for taking the time to join us. For 17 years, you patrol the outfield, and we just enjoy having you as part of the MLB Bro family. Thanks, my friend.
I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for having me on again.
We'll talk again real soon. That's the MLB Bro World Series pushback here on MLBBro.com.
MLBBro.com is covering MLB's postseason.